Progressive brings you Flowetry with Flo.
When Flo flows, she flows in the know. Mind ruminates the rates. Shown them all, I heed the call. Seeing the rest, I choose the best. Sometimes it's ours, sometimes it's not. When the fox walks, is it called a fox trot? That's a real question.
Compare Progressive Direct rates with competitors' rates. Visit Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Comparison rates not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
Is there a breakdown in store for Ty Montgomery? Is there a payoff to waiting for Sunday night to start Jordan Reed? And what New England running back might be on the start radar for the first time this season? Plus, the second-place team in the Footballguys Players Championship, Jeff Hebenstreit, joins the program to discuss not waiting on a quarterback while waiting on a tight end, the Bengals backfield, and much more. We've got a great show for you. Dave Gerzak is here. I'm Eric Balkman. Stick around. Your high-stakes fantasy football hour starts now.
Live and heard around the world. You are now listening to the most entertaining hour of radio on the planet. It's the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com with your hosts Eric Balkman and Dave Gerzak. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour is your home for football analysis from the best fantasy players in the world. And now, because no one else was available, here are Eric Balkman and Dave Gerzak.
Thank you so much, Rob. Greetings and salutations to all of you Balkaholics and Gerzakinetics. Welcome to the latest episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour, presented by MyFFPC.com. I am, of course, your slightly above average host, Eric Balkman, and my co-host is the patron saint of fantasy football, the Dizzle, Dave Gerzak. Coming up on tonight's show, a Yam Honor 9 with last night's shootout participants, a Would You Rather with Christian McCaffrey, and more. Plus, Jeff Hebenstreit drops by to talk about his second-place team in the Footballguys Players Championship, starting Tariq Cohen over Jordan Howard, and a lot more. Shout out to the chat room right now. Feel free to post any questions y'all might have right in there. If you want to connect with us on Twitter, you can do so at HSFF Hour. You can connect with me on Twitter at Eric Balkman, and Dave is at David Gerzak. You can post on our Facebook page at facebook.com/HSFF Hour. If you want to chime in and talk with us, give us a call at 347-426-3682. That's 347-GAME-OVER. You can also email the show at the inbox at highstakesfantasyfootball@gmail.com. If you have any questions for us, now is the time to send them if you have not sent them already. We'll try to get to all the chat room questions, the tweets, the emails, and more in our fantasy feedback segment later on in the show, brought to you by our producer and mutual friend Rob and our audio engineer Bryce, working very hard to get those to us tonight. Exciting stuff this week, once again, is I got a couple of tweets about this. The High Stakes Lowdown on rotoviz.com, which you can check out at rotoviz.com/podcast. That is now a weekly show, weekly through the NFL season, and I'm sure we'll go to monthly, when things slow down a little bit. But right now, throughout the season, we are going weekly. And this week, you can check out Don Metter, of course, 2010 FFPC main event champion Don Metter, and 2016 FFPC main event champion David Hubbard. So a pair of main event winners on this episode. It was a fun one to do. It's hopefully a fun one to listen to. I hope we get a lot of enjoyment out of that as well. Dave, I appreciate you fighting this flu bug or whatever you have. I know you're under the weather tonight. I really appreciate you doing the show, man.
I'm fine, Balky. Don't worry about it.
Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that. I'm also glad to hear that we can introduce our guest tonight. I want to bring him on right now. He runs a home league called the St. Louis Slammers for around a decade and a half, which is how he was introduced to fantasy football. Launched his high-stakes career playing in the W Coffin, is drafted live in Vegas several times as well. Currently, he is in second place for the $250,000 grand prize in the 2017 Footballguys Players Championship. Please welcome into the show Mr. Jeff Hebenstreit. What is up, man?
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me. Thanks for having this slightly above-average player on before my team drops out of contention.
You are way better than slightly above average, my friend. You are crushing it right now, and that is a poor attitude to have. And I know you would only say it if you didn't believe it. So I am very excited to talk to you tonight. A lot of fantasy stuff to get to. Before we get into fantasy football, tell the listeners what you do for a living, Jeff.
I work for a company called Underwriters Laboratories. We're a third-party certification organization. You've probably seen the logo on stuff. It's a little U and an L and a circle, and we test electronics, fire extinguishers, life jackets, all kinds of stuff. I work in the area of fire protection, dealing with sprinkler systems, looking at the performance and safety of manufacturers' products used in those systems.
So you are not a hands-on guy, okay? You are quality control observing this kind of stuff. You are not actually involved in any sort of the testing that you guys do, right?
Maybe it.
We do. I'm involved in the testing. Yeah, we do the testing.
Nice. That's awesome. That's very exciting. Cool stuff.
So I mean, if one of these kind of companies doesn't pass their test, do you ever ask them for like your kickback or anything?
No way. They don't get to use the UL mark if they don't pass the test.
They do that in the Middle East. That's how they pass inspections over there.
So I've been told.
Anyway, so we now know Jeff's an honest person.
Yep, absolutely honest.
So what made you decide to get into high stakes fantasy football, Jeff?
I saw, had my home league going for several years, and then I saw the WCOF information. This was probably 10 years ago, and, I talked with my buddy Jason Weiler, Fantasy Freak. You guys probably seen him on some of the leagues and stuff, and we decided to split a team. We thought it was our next level in our fantasy football addiction just to kind of keep it going, and we've been doing high-stakes leagues since.
Once they get the bug, it's hard to shake, as Dave knows right now from the flu standpoint.
That's hilarious.
All right, Aaron Rodgers. Let's talk about him.
I was just puking on the microphone.
Jeff, I don't know if you know this, but we are located in northeast Wisconsin. I don't think either one of us is a diehard Packer fan, but we are definitely Packers enthusiasts and follow them. And certainly it has been a pleasure watching Aaron Rodgers over the past decade plus. It's been a pleasure for you watching Aaron Rodgers pile up a couple of pretty good fantasy games, or at least one last week. And he is part of the reason you are in second place overall. Do you think, knowing that you took Rodgers in, I believe, the third round, if I'm remembering correctly, do you think high-stakes players are taking waiting on quarterback too far in drafts right now? Are they taking it to a level that they shouldn't be? And the fact that you can get a guy like Aaron Rodgers, who is an every week, massive performer, you can get him in the third round?
In general, I'd say no. I think each year is different. And, I mean, if you look at the top teams in both the championship and the main event right now, most of them don't have a Rodgers or a Brady. And however, I think that high-stakes players can't underestimate those guys at some points. And so, drafting him at the third round is kind of the top end of where you'd want to get him. That's probably a reach a little bit, and he needs to score 400 points for the season for him to be worth it there. And if I ended up taking, this is the only league I have Rodgers in. I've got Brady in quite a few. I was getting him in the fourth and fifth in a lot of leagues. And, if where your sacrifice is you're sacrificing some running back and receiver depth for your team, where you can stream quarterbacks together to kind of equate what a Rodgers or Brady might do throughout their season. And, the part that I think sometimes gets underestimated is, you've got a starter pretty much every week. And if you make the championship bracket with either of those quarterbacks and they can string together some 30-point games with a receiver combo, it could do a lot of good things for you.
A lot of times people think streaming quarterbacks is so awesome, but all of a sudden, what if Andy Dalton was one of your streamers and some other guy who's been crappy so far this year? That happens all the time, actually. And all of a sudden, you started Dalton one week, he has a good matchup, puts up like 5 points or 6 points or whatever it is, while Rodgers is putting up a 30.
I think people, and this is not just true with quarterbacks too. This is true with tight ends and to a certain degree running backs and defenses for sure. I think a lot of people, myself included, I'm definitely guilty of this. When I think about streaming a certain position, I tend to only think about the upside. I tend to only think about the good parts of streaming, not taking into the account that, look, there's going to be some reasons where some weeks where I make the wrong decision. And start the wrong guy, or B, a guy. I was talking about this on the Appleton Trophy Fantasy Football Show yesterday. My bust of the week last week, Amir Abdullah, Dave, on the road against an extremely tough Giants defense, already having Theo Riddick in the backfield. What does Amir Abdullah do? Sets a career high in rushing yards. One of those things. You just can't project it.
He looked really good, too.
But one of those, yes, he did. In fact, I think we have an email coming up later on in the show about it. But one of the things that you have to take into account. You can play it the right way. You can make it's like poker. You make all the right calls, play it hand the right way, and it doesn't end up for you that way. That's one of the things, and that's the risk you take with streaming. Whereas you get a guy like Rodgers, put him in your lineup every week except for his bye week, and you forget about it.
Yep, except for Andrew Luck, who we warned people off of this year.
That's
so
true.
Any listeners here don't own him anyway.
Actually, I own him, but I don't count as a listener, right?
Right. You didn't listen to us anyway.
I listened to you.
No, you did not.
No, I listened to you in every league except for one, and
Yes.
I had to take advantage.
Good job picking up Ty Montgomery in the 5th round. Fantastic pick. He's currently leading all running backs in snaps. But even the head coach was talking about him, getting a little bit more rest this week. Are you concerned about him breaking down, do you think, in his first full season as running back? Or are you just willing to let him ride it out and just get as many snaps as possible?
If we were at week 6 or 8 and having this conversation, I might be a little more worried. But we're only at week 2 right now, and I think kind of the game flow, how it went down last week with Nelson getting hurt and out of the game right off the bat, that kind of led to increased work for Montgomery. I think, starting this week, you're going to start to see that cut back a little bit. And, hopefully up in Wisconsin there, they can kind of keep streaming him a steady dose of Wisconsin cheese curds and keep him healthy for the rest of the year.
I got news for you, Jeff. Cheese curds, not the healthiest thing in the world. It's part of the reason that Eddie Lacy is no longer a Green Bay Packer. Well, I'm just saying, he always talked about on Twitter being into Chinese food and McDonald's. Those are the two things I always remember him tweeting the most about. About to eat this McDonald's. I love this Chinese food or whatever. The thing is,
I never knew you were so perceptive about the dieting habits and dining habits.
Well, it's not just me being perceptive about it. A lot of times people are, retweeting him or posting, links and stories with his tweets embedded. So it's pretty obvious. But yeah, I'm with you, Jeff. I think that as long as Ty Montgomery stays healthy, and I read a great article today, and I can't remember who wrote this. Maybe it was just a Roto-World blurb. I could be wrong, but they made the point that look, he's leading the NFL. For snaps by a running back right now. But he's only had I think he's averaging 16 touches a week, which doesn't seem like you would think for a guy who's leading the NFL in running back snaps, you'd think 20, 25 touches a game. Only 16 touches so far.
True. So, who cares if you're just running around? Big deal.
Well, blitz.
Oh, wow.
Blitz pickups.
Those linebackers
they can be a little stressful from time to time. Let's get back to talking about your first-round pick here, Jeff. Jeff Hebenstreit, our guest tonight, second place in the Footballguys Players Championship heading into Week 3. Many drafters were not all drafters, but many of them were taking Julio Jones over Odell Beckham back in mid-August. This league you had drafted roughly, I think, just under a week before Beckham went down with that preseason injury. So both guys healthy at the time. Why did you make the choice to draft Beckham at the 104 over Julio Jones?
Yeah, if it would have been a week later, I probably would have taken Julio over Beckham. But, at that point, I kind of viewed it as a toss-up. They were close to even last year, I felt. And I thought, the loss of Kyle Shanahan for the Falcons could damper Julio a little bit. And the addition of Brandon Marshall to the Giants might help Odell a little bit. And so, that I kind of weighed those things and kind of decided to go with Odell after that.
Are you at all concerned, based on what we've seen from the Giants' offense so far, about the prospects for Beckham the rest of the season? Now, this is probably going to be his healthiest game he's had all season, this Week 3 game against I believe they play the Eagles this week. You look at this game, are you concerned about Beckham, what he can do the rest of the season, or was this just Week 2 was just one of those games?
Yeah, a little bit concerned. I think it's going to get better, though. They also dropped a lot of balls this last week, between several different receivers. And so as soon as they start moving the chains, he'll get more touches. And then once he gets healthier, he'll get more touches as well. So I think it's only up from here.
So what? Oh, don't worry about that?
Don't worry about that.
There's some sort of...
Keep going. We're good.
Here.
We're good.
So, Jeff, a lot of FFPC players like to load up on tight ends in this format. And you especially see it in many of these drafts. Guys will take 3 in the first 4 or 5 rounds, where some of it see it as a gimmick, Ron Meyer. You waited until the 9th round to take a tight end, and then you went back-to-back with Jason Witten and Julius Thomas-Balke, I assume, here?
Yes.
And is this a strategy you normally like to employ?
Yeah, I've worked it both ways. So usually I take best available if he's there. And, if Montgomery wasn't there in the 5th round, I probably would have taken Zach Ertz. And And so, Witten was the end of my second tier of tight ends that I liked, and so I was kind of waiting once I got into that second tier and took him at the end of my second tier. And so I've got several leagues where I've got Gronk or Kelsey or Olsen or some of those guys earlier on as well. And if Gronk and Kelsey can continue to put up 20-point games, then they're worth it, first or second round. So I think it just kind of depends on who's available at the spot you get them.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I'm just curious, given that you have several teams in the Football Guys Players Championship, well, more than several, but Jeff, you look at your drafting philosophy as the season goes on, as the drafting season goes on, do you feel like you are not afraid to put all your eggs in one basket and get the same player on the majority of your teams, or are you kind of going out of your way to make sure that you have a decent amount of variance between your squads?
Yeah, that's a tough one because you got guys you like and you want to take them if they're there, and I probably tend to do that more than I try to diversify. And so if I got guys I like, I've got certain guys on probably half my teams, and so that you got that risk though where I've gotten some of those wrong this year, such as I've got Bilal Powell on quite a few teams and he's not done a whole lot so far, or I've got Eli on a few teams as a second quarterback, and he's not done a whole lot so far, but that doesn't hurt so much since he's been a second quarterback. But, I tend to kind of go with the guys I like more so, I'd say.
Jeff Hebenstreit is our guest tonight here on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. Eric Balkman and Dave Gerzak getting a chance to talk to the team owner in the second place spot in the Football Guys Players Championship 2 weeks into the season. And
second place out of 7,200 teams.
Yeah, essentially,
that's a lot of teams.
He is ahead of 7,198 other teams. That's insane. No matter what point in the season.
That's off the charts on the percentiles.
Yeah, it really is. I can't even calculate it with the juice. Last week you added a pair of receivers, Jeff, off the waiver wire that actually paid pretty good dividends right away in week 2. So who do you think puts up better numbers for the remainder of the season for your team here? Is it Allen Hurns in Jacksonville, or is it J.J. Nelson in Arizona?
I like J.J. Nelson more, especially if John Brown's out, which I think he's going to be out again this week. I think they're both a little banged up right now. Hurns has a hurt shoulder, and I think Nelson has a hamstring issue. He hasn't practiced as fully for the last couple days. But, both of them together, I like Nelson a little more. If Brown's out, I feel like Hurns, kind of gets those garbage time points sometimes at the end of the game, and you don't know what you're going to get out of him until the last quarter some games. If they start, spreading that out more throughout the game, then maybe I'd be more receptible to Hurns. But right now I'd go with Nelson.
Dave, who do you like better? Just curious the rest of the season between Hurns and Nelson, if you're in our roster, one of them.
I would probably look at Nelson just because I don't think John Brown's coming back. I just don't feel good about him at all.
Do you know Jerron Brown actually outsnapped J.J. Nelson last week?
No, I don't.
Yeah, he actually outsnapped him, but obviously J.J. Nelson way more efficient with his snaps than Jerron Brown was too, so that's something to look at. And I know you don't like John Brown in general.
Yeah, no, I have him on one dynasty team. I'm always thinking of ways to cut him, and I haven't done so yet. Anyway, try and trade him for a future third or something. What do you think? Future third?
Future third, yeah, that seems about right.
Future second might be too much.
Yeah, I would not give up a future second round for John Brown.
So anyway, Jeff, so since you were so good at the waiver wire, who do you like? And by the way, all the waivers are closed for FFPC, so you're not helping any of these other 7,198 suckers.
Yep.
Who do you like on the waiver wire this week?
Well, I think one guy that I picked up in several leagues was Rashad Higgins, Cleveland wide receiver. I thought he would be good from the PPR format. I think he got 11 targets last week, if I recall, and he had quite a few catches and yards off those targets. And so with Coleman being out, I liked him. I picked Kendall Wright up in a couple leagues. Lockett was available in a couple leagues. And then I can't believe I'm going to say this out loud, but I actually picked up Cleveland defense in a few leagues, and it's being recorded, which makes that even worse.
Just wait till you see their performance this week.
But listen, to defend you, Jeff, when's the last time Cleveland's not only been a favorite, but a favorite on the road, which is what they are at Indianapolis this week in Jacoby Brissett. So that is an interesting play. I don't think you were alone in picking up the Browns defense this week.
They're probably driving, too. They're probably just taking, the school bus.
Yeah, just heading down to maybe just taking, their own vehicles. They might not even be getting a bus. Hopping in the old Cutlass Supreme and head over to Indy. That could be what they're doing, too.
We're taking Duke Johnson's Land Rovers. 2-3 guys get in that.
Running backs are in the Land Rover, obviously. Yeah. Linemen are taking a stretch excursion.
A bachelor party bus.
Yeah, bachelor party bus. That's how it works. Hey, you brought up a good point, Dave, about when we were talking about Higgins this week, about who actually you thought had an outside chance of being the Browns wide receiver number 1 the rest of the way.
Well, yeah, I brought up Ricardo Lewis as a guy that most people wouldn't think about, that he's like the more prototypical wide receiver, and he's super cheap, that most people aren't thinking about. I think he's like 6'2", 212, but you probably get him for $5 in most leagues out of a $1,000 fab.
Right.
So if you had the extra roster spot, I just thought that was worth a shot. If you had a guy that's just totally not worth anything, I would have picked him up. You
know what ticked me off this week in our Blake Harrington Dynasty League? I lost Greg Olsen, and which, by the way, I just got my. Is
that how you say it now?
What?
I lost Greg Olsen.
I lost Greg Olsen. I got my injury report tonight for Blake Harrington, and there's 3 guys on it, all on IR. So I don't know if I was happy that I don't have anybody questionable or doubtful, or depressed I already have 3 guys on IR week 3 of the season. Anyway, the point being is I had got a couple of tight end trade offers this week, and I was engaged with one of the guys in doing a trade, and ultimately we didn't do it. But he pointed out to me on like Tuesday that I had an open roster spot. And I'm like, oh yeah,
right.
And I forgot about it again. Waivers went off, and I totally so now I got this open roster spot that's just.
They're Saturday waivers though.
I know, but it's Saturday. Like I have to wait that long to fill my roster. I hate having these empty roster spots. It's totally annoying.
That just reminded me that I have Gronk and Eifert, so I might have to pick up a tight end.
You might have to.
I'm so glad we do this show. I can fix my dynasty teams.
But the show is all for you, Dave.
Yeah.
And it's
Jeff's still here. By
yeah,
the way.
I know. I want to talk to Jeff about the Football Guys Players Championship draft schedule he put together, because Jeff, you drafted obviously more. I alluded to it earlier. You drafted more than a handful of teams this year, but none after August 29th, when the 3 preseason games for all the NFL teams were complete. What was it about those later drafts, August 30th on, that made you to want to get in with all your Football Guys drafts prior to the 30th of August?
Yeah, here's the deal. I feel that you can build some different teams at different points throughout the month of August. I love drafting. I'd draft every day if I could, but I had to spread it out a little bit throughout August. But, the teams you can build in the beginning of August aren't the same as the teams you can build in the middle or end of August. And then I had 2 main event teams in September. And so I did all those other drafts in August throughout the preseason. And, I don't think the team that is in second place right now I could have built in September, because guys started creeping up as far as draft positions, et cetera.
I always say this every year on the show, Dave, that if you want to get value, just, we open it up, June 4th or June 3rd or whatever. You want to get value, draft early, as early as you can, because think about these Kareem Hunt guys that are just laughing all the way to the bank that got them in like the 9th or 10th round back in June, And it's fine if you want to, because
people are always worried about the injuries.
That's the thing.
But that's all random.
Okay, that is random, but a lot of the content sites, and I know like I'm totally biased, like, hey, draft early, draft often, Football Guys Players Championship, myffpc.com. I'm biased, but I'll say this. There's a lot of content sites out there that will say, wait as long as possible to draft your team. This is why we always say it, wait as long as possible.
Terrible advice.
That's fine if you want to wait that long and draft right at the end. But Jeff is sitting here in second place for a team that he could not have built, as he stated. A team he could not have built in the last week before the NFL season starts. In the last 2 weeks before the NFL season starts. After the 3rd preseason game, you could not have put this team together. So if you want to build a dominant team, your best bet to do it is as early as possible. I'm off my soapbox.
That was a very good speech.
I'll let it go. You do agree?
Yeah, I do for the most part.
Okay,
what about you, Jeff? So Jeff obviously agrees. So, all right, we're done with that. Jeff, Tariq Cohen, you drafted him as a handcuff to the illustrious Jordan Howard, who was a non-pedigreed back that was getting taken in the second round by everybody.
If you did this.
At what point do you start – if you did this.
Right,
sorry.
yeah.
If you picked Cohen as a handcuff to Howard, at what point do you consider starting him over Howard, given what we've seen so far from both of them? And actually, I personally think that you're already at that point, but I'll let you go ahead.
Well,
if you look at the rankings.
Yeah, I know.
Anyway,
okay. What's your thoughts, Jeff?
Yeah, I 100% agree. Especially in PPR leagues, because he's going to, get some targets and, maybe 5 catches a week at least, and, throw in those receiving yards, and he's going to get some rushing attempts as well. I think that value's there more than Howard right now. Howard's banged up a little bit too, and who knows how many snaps he's going to get this week. So I think you're already there in PPR leagues.
It's interesting because you think about, and I brought this up on the show last night, I said Tariq Cohen was a guy, for the majority of people, he was like an 18th, 19th, 20th round pick A lot of people picked him up off waivers as well. And you're taking Jordan Howard. If you wanted Jordan Howard on your team, you had to take him in the first round or the second round. I think I saw him go in the third round once. Either way, he's a top first, second, third round pick. We're going into week 3, and the three of us are already unanimously deciding that we are starting Cohen over Howard, and it's not like Howard is out. It's not like he is going to be inactive. It's insane to me to think this way, but this is the way that you have to think.
It might be a little bit incorrect, though. There's always a chance.
I don't know
wrong.
if it is.
Yeah, there's a chance we're wrong.
He could
have a 25-point week this week.
He could. But if you would have started Howard over Cohen either week 1 or week 2, that was the wrong decision.
Well, he did get hurt last week, right? He scored 0.7 fantasy points.
He was kind of playing hurt too, because I remember going into that game that John Fox was saying like, well, he's got a bit of a shoulder issue right now, and I just wrote it off as that's just John Fox being John Fox, because he's always doing stupid stuff like that with the injury report. So
that's true.
Yeah, totally. Let's get back to Jeff here and talk to you about the what's going on in Cincinnati right now, because we have a new offensive coordinator, a pass-happy offensive coordinator, what we'd like to think as a more offensively advanced offensive coordinator, and Bill Lazor taking over. What do you make of the running backs that he is going to have at his disposal here from week 3 going forward? You have Joe Mixon, who we all thought was going to be the guy. Well, I shouldn't say we all, but a lot of people thought he was going to be the guy to own in this backfield. You have Jeremy Hill, who is still starting, and then Giovanni Bernard, honestly, who's been the most productive of the 3 backs so far. Can you count on any of these guys in your starting lineup right now?
I wouldn't let yet unless you absolutely have to. I mean, I've got Gio in a couple leagues and Joe Mixon in one, and they're out of my lineup unless I'm desperate here. And I just given that you don't know who's going to be the go-to guy yet, and it's just a tough situation.
Dave, you're still all in on Mixon this year.
I'm not all in. I'm not
between
starting.
Those 3.
Yeah, I still think he's he's still being the most productive back. It's just not. There's not going with one player. They're all mediocre. The team is doing poorly.
Yeah, bad offensive line.
They have to make some sort of change. And what is the change you're going to make? You're going to go with the same stupid 3-headed monster that's getting you nowhere? No, you shouldn't do that. Give the ball to Mixon. You're on the road at Green Bay, right? Get 9 points. It's a tough game, but I think Cincy's going to have I think they're going to play pretty well. I think they're going to play Green Bay close.
Yeah, I think so too. I'll say this too. Well, let me ask you this. I'll ask you guys both this. Dave, I'll let you answer it first. Is there any similarity in this Cincinnati Bengals offensive coordinator change? Is there any similarity to what we're seeing here, to what we saw with the Los Angeles Rams at Todd Gurley, with Sean McVay taking over and seemingly unlocking Gurley's potential that we saw in 2015 that we didn't see at all last season? Now we have the young offensive mind there. Todd Gurley obviously blows up on Thursday night. Looked good in the first 2 weeks as well. Is there something similar here that we could see with Joe Mixon with this new offensive coordinator taking things over, hopefully a more advanced offensive mind? Dave, your thoughts on Mixon potentially being the key that unlocks his greatness?
I mean, there's going to be a change for sure. I think that to equate it to Gurley, because Gurley had an entire season to recover from stupid Fisher. So it's just like, I mean.
What's worse, Jeff Fisher coaching you or tearing your ACL?
Oh, man.
What's the longer rehab time?
It's the worst. So, I think that was he had a whole season to get to the season. So I think with Mixon, it's only 1 week. So I don't think it'll be as impactful, but it can't hurt, man. It can't hurt.
Jeff, what about you? Do you think Mixon? I mean, obviously Mixon can't be really any worse than he was under Zampese, but as Bill Lazor takes over, what kind of numbers can you expect from Mixon going forward?
I sure hope they go up, because it's painful watching them games right now. And the Thursday night game this week for the Rams and San Fran, it actually turned out to be a pretty fun game to watch. So hopefully Bengals can do something more like that, because it's not very enjoyable watching them games right now.
Got that right.
So I guess we're going to ask you a personal question.
Yes.
What do you usually do for watching NFL games on Sunday, and who are you usually watching games with?
Oh, man. We got a good crew that gets together at our friend's house, Mark, and his wife, Tony. And she built the ultimate garage bar. And, we've got 3 screens, DirecTV, Sunday Ticket. She even brews her own beer. And so my wife and kids go over there with me. We got several families that get together over there. And just about every Sunday we hang out over there and watch football.
Do you guys watch the Sunday night game there, too, and just make it, like 12 hours of football? Yeah, 12 hours of football.
if my kids did not have school the next day, we probably would, but we usually get home for that game.
They got tuck in.
Well, what's the? I'm curious what the schedule is going to be like if this is sort of like your normal Sunday. What about the London game this week that's going to be streamed on Yahoo? Are you guys getting over there early this week and making a go of it? Because obviously, if you do that, there might be some late injury or late lineup changes you might want to make on your fantasy rosters since that one game is going to get in the way of that in the morning.
Yeah, I call it bonus football, right? Sometimes we'll go over there early and watch over there, for breakfast and coffee. But this week we're going to watch the first game here. But yeah, I love waking up to football at 8:30 in the morning on a Sunday. It's great.
I do too. My wife does not like me waking up to football.
Just to be clear, this isn't only broadcast on stupid Yahoo, is it?
I believe it is.
You're serious? So it's not going to be on NFL Network?
No, I mean they're going to be talking about it, but I think that you have to watch it on Yahoo. You can hook your HDMI cable up from like a computer to your TV if you wanted to do that.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll do that.
Yeah, I'll be in church, so I won't be able to watch. Actually, it's perfect. I can watch it right on my phone in church. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, put it on mute. This is perfect. Excellent. Jeff,
welcome to heaven.
Yes, exactly. Jeff Hebenstreit is our guest tonight. He is sitting in second place currently in the 2017 Footballguys Players Championship as we push forward through week 3. And Jeff, this is more of like a RotoViz high-stakes lowdown question that I like to ask guests, but I'm going to ask you. Lineup decisions are so crucial week in and week out. In fact, it's really come down in these national contests to two things. You have to place the correct bids, pick up the correct players, and then put the correct players in your lineup. That's it. I mean, there's no trading, there's no drafting anymore until the end of the season. So you look at starting lineups. What's the biggest mistake maybe people are going to make this week or high-stakes players continue to make in general that you see?
So are you talking about a particular player or?
Yeah, we could do a particular player. Okay.
Yeah, somebody that I might think about not starting this week is Hopkins. I mean, it's kind of crazy that we'd say that because he's leading the league in targets, but he's playing in New England, and I don't think he'll get over 100 yards receiving, and if he doesn't get a touchdown, he wasn't worth the start most likely. And so I think that is a player that if I had a mid-level second option, I might start him over Hopkins, but I mean that depends on who you have.
Couple of things to keep in mind about Hopkins here. Dave, you and I talk about this every week. What does Bill Belichick do? He takes away your best weapon. Who do you think the best weapon on Houston is? Lamar Miller, Deontay Foreman, DeAndre Hopkins. It's Hopkins. So clearly he is going to be fighting an uphill battle against that Patriots defense. And not only that, Bill Belichick gets the luxury of facing a rookie quarterback making his second ever start. Those are two big red flags. If you have Hopkins, I'm with you, Jeff. If you have another option, if there's anybody in maybe a potential. You think about.
Get Sanu.
You think about there's hey listen there's that's the total what's the total on that game, like 52 or something like that. It's super high. So my point is, like, you look at let's look at Mohamed Sanu here for a second when you talk about what he's going to be going up against against Detroit. You have I'm assuming Darius Slay is going to be on Julio Jones, so you have Mohamed Sanu matching up on the number 2 corner. That game has a total of 50.5. Here's a guy I want to bring up if you had the decision to start between DeAndre Hopkins and the highest total game of the week, Oakland and Washington on Sunday Night Football. 54.5 points in that game. A guy who's been struggling that you may have actually benched last week, Jamison Crowder. I would rather play Jamison Crowder over DeAndre Hopkins this week, and maybe that doesn't even sound that crazy, but I'd rather play him in a game where he's not going to be facing Bill Belichick, where he's not going to be facing a defense that's scheming to stop him. He's just going to be another guy out there running his routes, maybe getting like 8 for 90. Maybe he gets a touchdown, but I expect 15 points from Crowder this week.
I think Hopkins will still get hit.
You'd rather have Hopkins?
I think so.
How strongly do you feel about
$5 worth.
All right, I got 5 on Jamison Crowder outscoring DeAndre Hopkins this week.
I got 5 on Hopkins.
I'll take Crowder.
And he's taking Crowder.
Yeah, you like Crowder. Okay, perfect. Well, I like this.
I think more upside with Crowder.
Yeah, totally. A total of 54.5. That, by the way, once Vegas hears this show tonight, that total is easily going to move to 60. No question.
By the way, I just took a quick look at one of the leading pay site rankings, and they had Hopkins scoring 13 PPR points and Crowder projected for 12.9. So this is pretty tight.
Yeah, it is
tight. They got the little sleeper tag on Crowder, though.
That's right. And don't sleep on him, baby.
so funny.
You sleep on him, you'd be sleeping on your fantasy team this week. We don't want to sleep on Jeff here, and he has been very gracious with his time. Do we have one more question?
Yes,
here
our big one. It's we always ask someone to give us a stud that you would actually consider benching this week, and a sleeper player that just might find his way into your lineups.
Well, I guess the stud I'd consider benching would be Hopkins. I for all the reasons we just said. I guess the sleeper, I'm going to say it again, Cleveland D.
Cleveland defense. Balky, I think we got a winner with the Cleveland defense.
I might have to look at picking. Maybe that's who I'll blow my my extra Carrington roster spot on tomorrow. Is picking up that Browns defense and playing them. Although my other option is pretty good in playing Denver against Tyrod Taylor. So I don't know. These are all decisions I can make and think about tomorrow. Jeff, listen, what a pleasure it has been having you on the show tonight. I know you are kind of being reserved and tempering expectations right away, but it's not an accident that you are in second place right now, my friend. You have a great shot of continued greatness the rest of the season. I wish you nothing but the best, not only in this league, in all your leagues. Thanks so much for doing the show tonight. We'll talk to you again soon, man.
Appreciate it, guys. Have a good one.
Thanks.
Jeff Hebenstreit, second place in the FPC going into week 3. Great guy, great interview, great knowledge, great sleeper stuff. Browns defense, baby. Jason Kahn's whooping it up right now, I know, listening to that. He's like, I'm totally with you, man. Browns D.
Yep.
You were going to say something?
No, you just said a lot of greats.
Well, it was a lot of greats.
It was.
This is a great show. I feel like Alec Baldwin, he does the Tony Bennett impression on Saturday Night Live. Well, we got a great show for you with a lot of great people, great analysis, and great fantasy talk. It's a lot of great things coming up tonight. All right, moving on.
No one watches that show except you.
Whatever. Saturday Night Live killed it at the Emmys this year, so don't tell me that nobody watches it.
No one watches the Emmys.
Well, that might be true. They had poor ratings again this year, and I love those shows. I don't watch the Emmys at all.
Did you have like an Emmys party?
No, in fact, I used to. The Emmys were like the one that I always kind of ignored over the years. I love my award shows. I would rank. I like the Oscars is the only one I continue to watch every single year. The Grammys I've kind of gotten so on a little bit, and then the SAG Awards too.
Well, then don't forget the best award show.
Oh, and Golden Globes.
The
too.
ESPYs.
Okay, I don't think I've ever watched those. I know this is like a sports football show or whatever. I can't sit through that.
It's so brutal, isn't it?
Yeah, that's not great.
It's like they're like, okay, what's the worst week of sports of the year? Let's put the ESPYs there and see if we can get
which is the one that they do it. That is the slowest time of the year. And I'll tell you the other thing, award shows. Now, I don't like to talk political too much, but when the entire award show, and this was true even before Trump was.
Do they have a Trump
president.
effigy on the Emmys, or do they have?
I don't watch the Emmys.
Okay.
But when it's like 3.5 hours and everybody's talking about it every single time, it's like. We're here to celebrate film.
Right,
We're here to celebrate the craft of acting, cinematography, directing.
Twitter, right?
Yeah, and I know they're like, well, we have a responsibility with this voice, with this audience. We have a responsibility, blah 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 blah. I get it, but I think when everybody's saying it, the message is lost a little bit.
Well, it's also kind of you're preaching to the choir because it's like the coastal people talking to other coastal people.
Right, exactly.
It's fine.
Us in the Midwest.
I'm not,
Don't
saying
forget about us.
It's just not the case necessarily.
Right.
So whatever.
I get it. No, your point is made and well taken. Let's make some other points tonight, and hopefully they are well taken by our audience. Roto World and Rob, hey, thanks a lot, guys, for tonight's rundown. Jordan Reed, questionable against the Oakland Raiders, according to John Keim on Twitter.
That's weird that Jordan Reed would be on the injury report.
Exactly. But not only did you
how could you have predicted that?
Did you see what he's on the injury report for?
Holy crap.
Oh, hold on. It was a chest injury. Oh, wait. Chest and shoulder. Wait, hold on. Chest, shoulder, and toe injury for Jordan Reed.
Oh, my goodness.
Jay Gruden this week said that on Wednesday he said, Reed is not healthy right now. Then yesterday he said, well, he's coming along, he's getting healthier, and today he I believe he practiced, 2 limited practice. So did not practice on Wednesday, limited on Thursday, limited on Friday. So he's got a lot of stuff going on right now. The biggest thing, why I bring this up, Dave, Sunday Night Football. You have to wait to play him. Now, if you're going to play him, the reward could be huge. If he makes it through that entire game, a game total of 54.5 under the lights of prime time, you have a lot of stuff going for you. However, if he's inactive, it would just kill you. So you look at the options that
must be why you made that bet. You think he's going to be inactive.
No. I nothing like that. Potential guys that you could have on your roster in addition to Jordan Reed. I'm curious if you would play them. Because obviously if you have a guy like Jared Cook, perfect. Then you just wait. You know what I mean?
Right.
The Monday night game this week is
it's Witten against a team that never uses tight ends.
Yeah, so if you have Witten, I mean, you're probably playing him anyway, given how he's been crushing it this year. But other guys you will not have that option for right now. So Jared Cook we already talked about. Who would you play between Jordan Reed and Charles Clay?
I'm not going to play. If I owned Reed, which I do not, I would not be starting Reed at all. I do not trust him to play. I would bench him all over the place. So it's not even really a would-you-ratherable thing. But there were some good options out there for picking up players. You could have picked up Ben Watson. He was out there in this league.
Zach Miller.
Zach Miller was out there for Chicago. He's been getting targets. I think he had 9 last week, actually, for 6 for 42 he had for catches. And then even Ed Dixon replacing Greg Olsen was not a bad option.
So you would play Dixon over Reed this week?
Yes, I would. Yeah. Why not? He's not going to play.
I'm not calling you out on this. I'm just confirming.
It's frustrating to talk about Reed because you shouldn't have him on your team. That should be the people that aren't good at fantasy that have him. 88%. A sports injury predictor had an 88% chance of him getting injured being injured through the season.
Yeah.
Per game, they have him predicted a 12.5% chance of getting hurt every game.
Oh my gosh, that's terrible. Ridiculous. Is he number 1 on that list?
He's the top tight end for probability of getting injured.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. You know what? And this is probably not true of any high-stakes leagues.
Sorry to interrupt you.
Go ahead.
He was hurt going into the season.
Right, that's true.
Anyway, go ahead.
This is probably not true in any high-stakes leagues. But you know what the perfect guy to have in this situation would be? Even more perfect than Jared Cook? Vernon Davis, Dave.
Oh, yeah.
Because Vernon Davis, in leagues last year when Reed missed, Vernon Davis actually looked pretty good. So that is the Reed report this week. Dave Gerzak says bench him whenever you can. Case Keenum, speaking of benching, will be the Vikings starter against Tampa this week. Sam Bradford out once again. Finished as the quarterback 31 in fantasy last week against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Kevin Hogan came into the game, Dave, last week for the Browns. And despite not starting, he actually outscored Case Keenum last week. Hogan in the game for fewer than 20 snaps. That was enough to finish ahead of Case Keenum for fantasy. Fire up that Bucs defense against Case Keenum. Now, here's the other problem. What are you doing with guys like Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs? We saw what they did with Bradford week 1. They looked fantastic. They looked awesome. We're like, how did we let these guys slip in drafts? They're crushing it. They both look like wide receiver ones.
True.
And then Case Keenum came by in week 2 and says, hey, guys, hold everything. And he looked terrible. So are you bench? I mean, it kind of depends who you have, but I think you have to seriously look at maybe benching Diggs and Thielen this week if you have better options.
I would look for any possibility I could to bench them because – the wide receivers rely on the quarterbacks, and if the quarterback play is that poor, I don't see him getting better this next week. It's just not. The Buccaneers defense is a good defense.
Yeah,
I like that. That team is like a real big sleeper team for me. I think they're going to be really good, and they're going to do really well against the Vikings.
Well, they were hotly drafted this year. You'd rather play Deshaun Jackson over both of those guys, right?
Yeah, for sure.
What about Marquise Lee?
I wouldn't be all that excited about it, but. I'd have to think about it. I'm not totally sure yet.
What about a team playing at home? Would you? Okay, I'm not going to tell you the guy's name yet. I will reveal his name eventually. What about a team playing at home that's a significant underdog that is going to be passing quite a bit, probably to play catch up? Would you like the number 1 receiver on their team over Thielen and Diggs?
Maybe. Depends on who it is.
Jermaine Kearse, New York Jets.
He's been really productive. Actually.
I'm actually starting him in a league this week.
The thing is, he's probably got an 80% chance to go like 6 for 60, and probably a 15% chance to score because they're not going to score hard. They hardly ever score.
I'm having a tough time disagreeing with those percentages. That seems about right.
Yeah, but he's playing. I'm playing well.
Well, okay. So here's the thing. We're not going to break this down for everybody. We're not going to say, hey, give us your roster. But you know who you have. If it's a semi-decent, like a palatable guy that you could stick in there, I would stick him in over both Diggs and Thielen instead of Keenum. And start that Bucs D, baby. Terry McCormick on Twitter reports DeMarco Murray is officially questionable against the Seattle Seahawks. He did not practice Wednesday or Thursday this week. However, he did return to a practice today in a limited fashion. He was seen catching passes, running routes, but Derrick Henry looked very, very good last week as he set a career high in rushing yardage. Mike Mularkey hasn't said who's going to start, but he did say Henry is going to have a good workload. This is a late game, Dave. I don't like Murray this week.
No, I would not play him.
Even if he's active. I mean, I think he plays, and I
Yeah.
still wouldn't even play him.
Henry's an elite RB1 if he has the job by himself. So there's no reason at all to risk DeMarco Murray. And he's trustworthy. Henry's very trustworthy. He's a good goal line back. I mean, no reason at all for Murray to play.
I don't think necessarily the story here or what we're trying to tell people is what to do with Murray. I think most people know to bench him. I think the interesting thing here, and this is what I said in the show last night, Derrick Henry might not even be that great of a start against the Seattle defense, even if he is the guy. Do you know what I mean?
I think he will be. I mean, Seattle rush defense is not all that great.
Okay.
And Tennessee is primarily a run-based team.
Yes, and they have been this season. We thought like, oh, Corey Davis, Eric Decker, Delaney Walker, they're going to fire it up this year. They really haven't. Like Marcus Mariota has been struggling to get on the same page with them. It has been the Derrick Henry show.
And their defense is reasonably decent, so I think they're going to play them close. It's a home game for them.
That is true. That's a good point. Okay, so maybe I'm
still actually struggling to put Henry into a lineup because I have Ty Montgomery, McCaffrey, and Buck Allen as my.
I would play all three of those guys over Henry.
And that's the thing is it's PPR, but man, it's tough because I think Henry could have a really strong week.
I was going to bring this up when we were talking to Jeff before. I actually have Jordan Howard in the league. I'm starting 3 running backs, and he's not one of the 3 running backs. Isn't that insane?
Well, it's good. You have good depth. Good job.
Yeah, good depth, but crappy judge of talent.
Yeah, you're fine.
Well, we'll see.
You need to get a good judge of talent later.
We'll see. Terrence West, questionable for the Jaguars game in jolly old London on Sunday morning, according to the Ravens official Twitter account. He has a thigh injury, did not practice Wednesday or Thursday. He did practice in full today. You would think he's going to be good to go, but Buck Allen has 40 touches in the first 2 games. Terrence West only 29. Obviously, Buck Allen, the more juicy touches with all them catches that he's getting. Terrence West does have 2 touchdowns to Buck Allen's 1. I'd rather play the guy with the touches. I didn't draft Terrence West anywhere this year, and I'm not all that excited about playing him against the Jags defense in a Sunday game that historically that London game has not been a very high-scoring affair.
Yeah, that's funny. I would have actually said that about last night's game, and then it ends up being 41-39. You know what I mean? That was crazy.
One of those things. You just never know.
You just don't. You know,
play it the right way, and it doesn't always turn out the way you want.
I don't think the Ravens' defense is going to play like either of the defenses last night. They are
I agree.
really strong.
They look very good.
They are very good. Yeah, I wouldn't have nothing to do with Terrence West. Allen's the guy to play, and I think he's never a real good game.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I hope you're right because I do have him on a lot of Kentucky teams. Speaking of Kentucky teams, I can't remember which one it is. There's the Ravens defense and the Seattle defense.
Oh, that's nice.
I've never had good defenses in that league, and obviously defense bulky. It's defense. Who cares? Play in Kentucky, and then you'll understand the importance of defense.
Yeah,
in that
if you get a shutout, generally you're gonna get about a 30 or 35. Or whatever.
It's insane. I mean? And if they give up 40 points, like the Niners defense did last night, you're looking at negative. Oh yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah, that's true. I forgot about the negatives.
Yeah.
And then what happens if you
start one on a bye?
You get a negative.
Negative 15. Which is weird because that happened to a lot of people this year with the cancellation of that Bucs game in Week 1, the Bucs-Dolphins game, because a lot of people only drafted, as we were saying, the Bucs defense. He didn't give the negative points for that because of the hurricane.
I should have actually petitioned him that he should.
You definitely could have done that. You are the Dizzle, so he definitely would have listened.
I'm sure I would not have.
Pete Carroll, Jimmy Graham, game time decision against the Tennessee Football Titans, according to Brady Henderson on Twitter. Graham did practice today, practiced in full today, Dave. He did not practice at all on Wednesday or Thursday. The quote from Pete Carroll, who, by the way, if you ever read the Roto World blurbs on any Seahawks injured players or any struggling Seahawks players, they're just fantastic with how they make fun of Pete Carroll's positivity.
Really?
The last one was something like Pete Carroll, who apparently owns a factory full of rose-colored glass lenses.
Oh, that's great.
I guess you can't say anything bad about anybody. He's so positive. I do too. So anyway, Pete Carroll, he really feels like he can do it, so we'll see. This is a late game. Luke Wilson and Nick Vannett would obviously be the tight ends if Graham is not able to play. Do not pick either of those guys up. It is not worth it. Of course, I say that. Luke Wilson will probably go off for 5 for 50 and 2 touchdowns. Jimmy Graham, I had him benched earlier for guys like Austin Hooper, Julius Thomas, not great options. Now I'm kind of waffling a little bit. I'm not sure what I want to do. What would you do in my shoes? Let's use those 2 examples.
Austin Hooper's not a bad choice. I mean, he's actually doing pretty well. I mean, Graham's not doing well in general this season yet.
Right.
I think Graham's going to play. I'd say there's 80% chance he plays, actually.
Okay.
And who was the other tight end?
Julius Thomas.
Yeah. You have to pick Thomas beforehand.
Both of them I have to pick beforehand. Just to let everybody know, Seattle is at Tennessee. Austin Hooper is at Detroit. And then Julius Thomas is, of course, at the Jets this week. So maybe a higher than normal percentage chance of Julius Thomas getting in the end zone.
Right. I would maybe listen if there was a Roto World or some sort of news update that came out that said that Graham is 100% or super likely to play. Then I would play Graham. But otherwise, I'd have to look longer at Julius Thomas. I think, though, that the news reports to me, and we got a full practice in today, and he's a veteran player, so he really doesn't need to practice Wednesday and Thursday. If he gets a full practice on Friday, he's playing. I'm pretty confident.
Okay.
It's not this is a game they still need to win. I mean, in Tennessee's they're a tough team like we were talking about.
Right. I will say this. I think what I'm going to do as of right now, and you know my options, and you probably, if you have Jimmy Graham, you probably have similar options to Hooper and Thomas. What I'm going to do right now is leave Graham on my bench. If I get any kind of, solid word on Sunday, like he is a go, not Pete Carroll saying he's a go, because we've played that game last year. Pete Carroll said, oh, he's ready to go, he's ready to go, he can't wait to get out there. Oh, he's inactive. I don't want to do that. I need some beat writer, somebody other than Pete Carroll confirming that he is going to play. If I don't get that, I don't have a problem benching him this week, given how much he struggled this year. And, Austin Hooper's been okay, but he hasn't had that many touches. Julius Thomas obviously is not an awesome guy to play this week, but I know that they're going to play. So that's how I would roll with Jimmy Graham this week. Take it for what it's worth. Tyler Eifert ruled out for Week 3 against Packers. Eifert struggling this season. By no means a must-hold at this point, according to Roto-World. I have him in a couple of leagues this week, Dave. Obviously an easy bench. Picked up Zach Miller in a couple leagues to play for him. Fire up A.J. Green, man. I mean, obviously you're starting him no matter what, but he could be in for a big week with the lack of other targets that Andy Dalton's going to have on Sunday.
I mean, Eifert is officially on my death list, man. He sucks. I cannot stand Tyler Eifert. He's as much of a wuss
because
as Jordan Reed. He's always hurt. He should just get out of the NFL. The NFL is for people who don't have soft tissue injuries every single freaking week. Get out. You suck.
What?
I cannot stand him.
Yeah. You've never owned him, to my knowledge.
I have him in two dynasties.
Oh, okay.
So annoying.
Do you still have that sports injury predictor up? I'm just curious where Eifert was on that list, because we know Jordan Reed was the number one tight end. Where was Eifert?
He's at 58.1%. He was about number 7 or 8.
7 or 8. That seems low. Should have been higher.
Well, I mean, you can't nitpick on them for saying that there's a 58% chance.
Yeah, that's true. That's pretty high.
Although they have Delaney Walker at 77.7, which I thought that seemed a little high.
Yeah,
I mean,
he seems like he's always out there.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking. Yeah. Anyway,
okay.
Gronk is in the 60s, and then Ebron was up there as well.
Let's get into fantasy feedback, ladies and gentlemen. Your emails and tweets. Rob, don't play it. We're gonna.
By the way, Greg Olson, 29%. Whoops.
Oh, yeah. Well, they're not all winners, kids. We're going to try to get out of here a little bit earlier tonight, given Mr. Gerzak toughing it out. Troy in Boston, Mass. If Rex Burkhead doesn't play this week, would you guys be tempted to play Dion Lewis? My other options are Jeremy Hill and LeGarrette Blount. Yes, I know how bad my team is. That is Troy in Boston, Massachusetts. Rex Burkhead, Dave, does not sound like he's going to play this week. Did not practice Wednesday or Thursday. I didn't see the practice report today, but I feel like I saw something on Twitter that he did not practice. So do you fire up Dion Lewis over Blount and Jeremy Hill? I mean, obviously, Dion Lewis is the better pass catcher out of those three. Hill and Blount, you'd imagine, would get more touches, but they're not going to be high-quality touches. Your thoughts on playing Lewis over those two guys?
So James White's going to get a lot of touches.
He's going to get a bunch?
And who else is in it? The other running back they have. I'm missing his name right
now. Mike Gillislee.
Yeah, Gillislee. So, I mean, you want to start the guy who's third in the pecking order in the New England rush?
Well, remember, the guy who's third in pecking order got in the end zone last week, too.
Well, that happens, I guess. But, yeah, unfortunately, the other options aren't all that great.
Right. We're literally helping this guy on this. Like, nobody else is facing this conundrum this week.
So it's Blount, and who was the other one?
Jeremy Hill.
Yeah, you cannot start Jeremy Hill. I would definitely start Dion Lewis over him.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, maybe Blount.
I think I'm playing Blount over Lewis, but I could easily see regretting that if Lewis goes all Dion Lewis on us, from 2015.
Yeah, I mean, that's like a stretching half.
I'll put it this way. Blount has the much better shot at a goal line touchdown, and they are playing Houston. They're not playing Houston. They're playing the Giants defense that looked pretty bad last week. So take that for what it's worth. I'd be playing Blount. Hello, Balky and Dave. I'm thinking about shopping Ajayi around my 12-team PPR league after reading about his knee issue. What would you take for him, and would you advise picking up Damian Williams now rather than later? Thanks. That is Paul in Tampa, Florida. Okay, so to answer the second part of the question first, I think anytime you have a starting running back dealing with any kind of knee or ankle injury, I would definitely be looking at picking up his backup before the injury becomes much more serious, before everybody else is in on him, and it's going to cost you, several $100s off the waiver wire to pick him up. Whereas right now for Damian Williams, you probably get him for like $10 or $15. If he's still available in your league, maybe even cheaper than that on waivers tonight, you got him. I don't even know. But Jay Ajayi's knee injury is a little bit concerning. Adam Gase says that he is going to be out there on Sunday. But remember, this is a guy that fell in the draft to the 5th round because of these knee issues. So I think there is something there. And, yes, I would be looking at acquiring Damian Williams on the cheap right now just to see what happens.
That's not a bad idea, actually. But I'm not that worried about Ajayi. I think he'll be all right.
Okay. Hey, guys, I am having a Randall conundrum this week. Is he?
Cowabunga.
It's very clunky. Is he worth waiting to see if he plays in the 4 o'clock game? I need to go with him, Kendall Wright, or Sterling Shepard in my last wide receiver slot. That is Bill in Smithville, Texas. Bill, thanks for the email. Randall Cobb listed officially today as doubtful. I see doubtful on an injury report. I just read out. I don't. Doubtful. Yeah, he's doubtful. I don't believe he plays. I don't think he's worth waiting on. And between Sterling Shepard against the Eagles and Kendall Wright, Kendall Wright's playing at home against Pittsburgh. Kendall Wright got taken off the injury report today. I am playing Kendall Wright over Sterling Shepard and Randall Cobb for this guy.
Yeah, Kendall Wright might perform as the number 1 wide receiver on that team for all we know.
God knows somebody needs to.
Exactly.
Besides Tariq Cohen.
Yeah, I mean, and on the Giants, Shepard's probably like at least 3rd in the pecking order, maybe 4th for getting receptions.
Yeah.
Ingram's there too. You saw Marshall occasionally making catches and dropping plenty. And then you have Beckham.
For what it's worth, Evan Ingram listed as questionable on the injury report. Oh, he did practice? Okay.
I thought he was supposed to play.
Okay.
That's what I've heard.
Speaking of Tariq Cohen, we should actually give you props on your big board wager win last week. We had Tariq Cohen versus Delaney Walker, and thanks to Delaney Walker's 2-yard rushing touchdown.
Balky, you got to project those weird things to happen once in a while.
He had like 18 points, and Tariq Cohen had like 15.
I got kind of lucky there. I'll take it.
You got lucky, but hey, listen, points count all the same. Walt in Raleigh, North Carolina. What a game tonight. I believe he sent this in yesterday. But in order to tell what's real and what's not, could you guys play a Yaman or 9 with the Rams and Niners studs? TIA, that is Walt in Raleigh, North Carolina. Bravo to the Rams and Niners on Thursday Night Football. 2 subpar teams on a subpar night. I couldn't get off my couch. I was telling Aaron this at work today. I said, I had to take out the garbage for like 2.5 hours. I could not get off my couch. I can't remember the last time I was like so glued to a football game that wasn't a playoff game, especially a regular season game between 2 terrible teams in week 3. It was insane. And I couldn't get off the couch. I ended up watching the entire game. And I was like, wow, that was so awesome, so entertaining, so many twists and turns, so many fantasy implications in it. So I got the Yaman or 9 buttons here. Let's go ahead and fire it up. What I need you to do, Dave, is last night's big studs. You are going to say their name, and by Yaman, I am saying I'm a believer in what I saw last night is real for the rest of the year. By 9, I'm saying it was fake. I'm not. I don't see more of this coming. So fire away whenever you're set. You are saying the players' names, and you can feel free to agree or disagree with me. But I am the designated button pusher tonight for this game.
You're the pusher?
Yeah, I'm the pusher.
All right, so let's start with Jared Goff. Speaking of studs. What?
Yeah, I mean, there's no way Goff lights it up like that. I mean, even close to that for the rest of the year.
Right.
But you know what sucks is keep bringing up Carrington. I was so excited I had Todd. That's the only league I checked in all my live scoring because it was the only league I owned Gurley in, and I didn't want to check any other live scoring because I didn't want to see who I was going against. So I had Gurley in that league. Sweet, 37.9. I'm going against Jared Goff in that league. He's playing Goff. I'm like, why the hell is he playing Goff? His only other quarterback is Andrew Luck.
Well, that's really interesting.
And really bad team management. So he had 27 from Goff. Okay.
Speaking of Gurley, how about Todd Gurley?
Yeah, man.
That's an easy one.
Officially turned the corner. I am a believer in Tiger. We listened to the Kentucky podcast this week. Farrell Elliott talked about Chad Schroeder, one of the best players in the world. Who did he load up on in a ton of drafts this year? Mr. Todd Gurley. By the way, Kentucky podcast, I'm calling them out. They're stealing I got 5 on it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, Rob Fetcher was very polite and declined. Like, he just, pretended not to hear it.
But you just try to fight him?
Farrell Elliott, we hear you.
Down?
No, I will throw down. This is our segment. Luna is a fan of our show, not of the Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship podcast.
Our buddy Kurt liked Todd Gurley this year quite a bit.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, and it's paying off
with him in that one big
Kurt, who is leading the entire Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship right now.
Game last night.
He's going to be leading it after this week, too.
So, Tavon Austin. I know, I'm wasting time.
Frankly, I could be wrong on that. Maybe it's a Yaman because I feel like he didn't do much.
He did. Okay, let's go to Robert Woods.
Okay.
All right.
Still a believer in Cooper Kupp over Robert Woods.
All right, speaking of Cooper Kupp, how about him?
Saying 9 because he didn't do much, and I'm a believer in him the rest of the season.
All right, so let's go back to the Niners. Carlos Hyde.
Yeah, man.
Looked great being involved in the passing game, and you saw Kyle Shanahan really try to ram it into he scored both his touchdowns on 4th down runs, and I believe that's after he failed to get in on the first 3 plays of each of those series. You're talking about 8 goal line runs he had this game. Give me Carlos Hyde.
That's just great. It was impressive that they would rush. I thought they were passing on all those like that. And they still ran it. I was like, wow, that's crazy.
Even for the Rams, so great to see them all these people going for it on 4th down. It's fantastic. It was such a great game to watch.
Yeah. Pierre Garcon.
Yeah, man.
Big believer in him before the start of the season. Nothing changed. I couldn't believe that he has one of the best set of hands in the NFL. They were showing that stat, one drop pass last year was insane.
He looked really good. I mean, he was open a lot. He was very passionate. He was playing hard. It was nice to see it. I mean, he's rejuvenated.
If it wasn't for that Sammy Watkins over the shoulder catch that he made, that was awesome. If it wasn't for that catch, Garcon's catch on the deep ball would have been the catch everybody was talking about.
Absolutely. They both had great nights. I think that's it. I mean, you want me to mention these George Kibble and bits?
Well, what about Sammy Watkins?
Oh, Sammy Watkins, yes, Yaman for sure. Whatever.
I don't know if we've met. I'm Eric Balkman.
Oh, that's right. You're a Watkins hater.
I am a Watkins
You're
hater.
making a big mistake, my
Hopefully
friend.
that helps out Walton, Raleigh, North Carolina with that. Steve in Calabasas, California. I went 0 RB in one of my leagues and got Bilal Powell in the 7th, Matt Forte in the 12th, and Elijah McGuire off waivers, thinking one of these guys would step forward. Are any of them startable this week? And conversely, are any of them cuttable? That is Steven, Calabasas, California. I would hang on to Powell. And honestly, I did like Forte at the start of the year. I would do what I could to keep him. I'm fine with ditching McGuire, and I'm not playing any of these guys this week. They had like a 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 target. And you know what? Everybody's saying like, oh, this is terrible for fantasy. I can't count on any of them. I think this is a good thing because now you know that just don't play them. Look for another option. This is clear. They're making the decision for you. Do not put them in your lineup. And I'm not.
If he has a 0 RB team, he may need to, so I'd say Forte is the guy to play. That's pretty easy.
He did have the most carries or the most touches last week. And actually, number 2 on that list, you guessed it, Elijah McGuire. Bilal Powell was 3rd. So Powell's the guy.
Said something to the coaches in the locker room.
You never know. Especially with the Jets, you never know. And maybe he sat for the national anthem. Wasn't the Jets owner big against that?
Yeah.
That'd be
kind of funny. If you were an owner, would you do that? Would you call down something?
Don't put me in this position.
If someone did something that offended you, would you say, cut him?
If somebody,
Eric Davis, Al Volkman.
If I was the owner of an NFL team and I was offended by something that one of my players
one of your employees did,
I would want to have a sit-down conversation with him, get an explanation from him before I did anything. And I feel like that would help me make my decision after that.
You know what would be cool is if an owner did it, let's say it was sitting down for the national anthem, if he did it right then. Hey, send Kaepernick up to my box right now.
Oh yeah,
that'd be great.
Yeah.
He has to hustle off the field of security and then go up to the owner's box.
I could see Jerry Jones doing something like
that'd be
that.
so fun.
Yeah.
I wish
tell Ezekiel to get out of that Salvation Army pot. I need to have a conversation with
tell
him.
him to get upstairs
right now.
There's an elevator. I'm sure it'll take like 2 minutes.
Yeah, when Jerry World, man, they probably had elevators all over the place. What's up, Howard and Reed? A couple of Jordans. I grabbed Christian McCaffrey in several of my leagues this year and was honestly hoping for more. Is this the week he breaks out? Could you play a Would You Rather with him for week 3? Keep up the sometimes good work, except when you tell me to draft McCaffrey. That is Mark in Denver, Colorado. Okay, I'm still not that concerned about Christian McCaffrey. Maybe that's, pie-eyed optimism on my part. But I think that we have obviously not seen the best of McCaffrey. I think he's going to have a couple of blow-up games. I guess I'm a little concerned, but not that concerned. Still rolling him out there.
I mean, he's a big player, and he hasn't been able to break any big plays yet. And he's getting about the number of touches that you kind of expected. Maybe you hope for a little bit more, but that's fine. And so I'm putting him out there all the time. And they said they're going to ride the hot hand.
Yeah.
And people took that to mean like, oh, Stewart's going to get all these carries. That might mean the opposite, in fact. You just don't know for sure. And I think that that's a little bit of coach speak, too. I mean, I think that they're each have their roles, and they're each going to make, get a few plays.
Would you rather, real quick, with Christian McCaffrey for Week 3, Dave?
Sure.
Christian McCaffrey is at home against New Orleans. Would you rather have him or Leonard Fournette against the Ravens?
Give me. I'm going to take McCaffrey.
I would too.
Yeah, the rush defense for Baltimore is so good.
I don't think that it's that close, to be honest with you. McCaffrey or Lynch at Washington?
I'll take Lynch.
I would.
High total.
It is a high total. I'm still taking McCaffrey against the Saints. Tariq Cohen or McCaffrey? Cohen is at home against the Steelers.
I'll take McCaffrey.
I agree. And Isaiah Crowell at the Colts or McCaffrey?
Crowell, man, there's probably at least a 50% chance he outperforms McCaffrey.
Mm-hmm.
But just because of the PPR,
yeah.
McCaffrey's got that higher floor. So I think it's more conservative to actually play McCaffrey, so I'll take McCaffrey there.
I totally agree with you. And I lied. I'm going to do one more because this is a guy that you said earlier in the show would have a big week, and you mentioned PPR. Buck Allen at the Jaguars or Christian McCaffrey at home against the Saints?
I'll take Buck Allen, actually, oddly enough. He's not an elite talent, though.
He definitely is not.
I'll take Buck Allen. I don't trust Terrence West, and I think Allen's going to.
But it's close for you.
Yeah, and he's going to have a lot of catches, too. That's the thing is he's I wouldn't say dynamic, but he's a three-dimensional back in that he can make catches as well.
I would play McCaffrey over Buck Allen. It's funny. I own those guys in 3 leagues, or I own those guys together in 3 leagues this week, and I'm already playing both of them.
No, good.
Yeah. So it works out nicely for me there. Let's get into some starter sits here, and then we'll get out of here. Hello, HSFF Hour. Who should I start at quarterback this week? Dak Prescott at the Cards or famous Jameis in Mini? That is Fred in Toledo, Ohio. Prescott or Winston this week, Dave? I am going with Prescott, even though he's on the road. Well, Winston, I guess, is on the road, too, in Minnesota. Give me Prescott against Arizona. Not concerned about the injury.
Honestly, I'm going to take Jameis Winston. I'm going to actually be on your boy for one.
Perfect.
I think Winston. I just like his talent. I don't think Prescott's really shown a whole lot of improvement.
I like the Vikings defense better than the Cardinals, I guess. Gary in Portland, Oregon. I had a couple of running backs on my bench blow up last week, and now I need one of them to start in Week 3 over Bill Awful Powell. Amir Abdullah hosting Atlanta or Chris Thompson at home on Sunday night against Las Vegas. Trying to get used to it now. Appreciate you. That is Gary in Portland, Oregon. So if you have the decision between 2 Week 2 studs, Amir Abdullah getting the Falcons at home, Dave, or Chris Thompson also at home against the Raiders.
I'll take Chris Thompson, actually. I like him the best. I think he only has to deal with pedestrian backs, whichever one's healthy or playing.
Yeah.
And Abdullah has to deal with, Theo Riddick, who's actually all right.
Slam dunk for me. Totally Thompson. High total, and Rob Kelly's banged up, and Samaje Perine does not look ready for prime time, which is, ironically, when they will be playing. So I am totally on the Chris Thompson bandwagon this week and definitely playing him over Amir Abdullah. Jared in New York, New York. Do I start Marquise Lee in London versus the Ravens or Tyrell Williams, who gets the undefeated Chiefs at home? Thank you for the email, Jared in New York, New York. Marquise Lee against the Ravens, which I guess is a Jacksonville home game, even though it's really not, or Tyrell Williams against that Kansas City secondary in Los Angeles. Do you have a feeling here between Lee or Williams, Dave?
I'll take Tyrell Williams. Williams is more talented. He's got definitely better quarterback play, and I think that game those games do turn into shootouts. I mean, those AFC West games happen to do that. Not all the time, but often enough.
I will echo all the points you made. Agree with Tyrell Williams there. Again, I don't foresee a high-scoring game in that London game. And it seemed like Jacksonville really wanted to get the ball to Allen Hurns rather than Marquise Lee. So take that for what it's worth. Colin in Camden, New Jersey. Hello, Balkman and Gerzak, attorneys at Fantasy. Do I play Kobe Fleener in Carolina or Jack Doyle at home playing the Browns? Have a great weekend. Thanks, Colin. Thanks for the email. Hope you have a great weekend, too. Kobe Fleener against the Panthers, Dave, on the road, or Jack Doyle at home against the Browns. Which one you playing?
I'll take Jack Doyle.
I would too. I mean, the way that Brissett was peppering him with targets, I really like Doyle just in general.
Those young quarterbacks, they throw their tight ends. It's their safety blanket.
That is their safety blanket. Yeah.
And the Cleveland's defense, regardless of what we talked about earlier, they still do suck. It's not a good defense.
I don't think they suck,
they
but
suck.
Okay. Well, I agree to disagree there. Did you see?
Well, according to this, they're ranked 31st against something. I don't know what it is, but against tight ends.
No.
So they suck against tight ends.
And that's what we care about for this question. I saw this stat, not that you would care. It was like I think it was last week. for the first time in not NFL history, it was like the first time in like 30 or 40 years or something, 4 quarterbacks from the same school all got starts.
Oh, really?
And that football quarterback factory was, of course, North Carolina State.
Really?
Philip Rivers. Yep.
Rivers. Okay.
You want to guess the other 3?
I want to, but Rivers might be the only one I know.
Well, we just mentioned one for the Colts.
Brissett.
Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah. See, I don't have as much NFL deep knowledge of sucky guys.
I'll give you a hint. This other guy may have gone to NC State, but you know him as Beaker from the Muppets.
Glennon.
Mike Glennon.
Yeah.
And the other one was kind of cheap because he technically did play there for the majority of his career, but he actually his last year was as a Wisconsin Badger in college, but he did play at NC State for his first 3 years.
Whew.
He also played a little baseball in the summer for the Texas Rangers. His name's Russell Wilson. So those 4 quarterbacks are all from NC State. 2 more emails and we'll call it a show. Greetings and salutations. Need your advice on my final flex this week for my FPC league. Devontae Parker at the terrible Jets or Beast Mode Lynch traveling to D.C. against Washington. Dan in Marshall, Minnesota wrote that email. Thank you for the email, Dan.
That's easy.
Parker or Lynch? You're going with Lynch?
Lynch, it's easy for me because he's guaranteed touches. It's probably going to be a competitive game. It's going to be a high-scoring game. He can get some pass catches. If they start blowing out the Jets, Parker might get like 2 for 18.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Parker, by the way, also a little bit dinged up. And Jarvis Landry, I don't know if you saw this, Dave, last week, set an NFL record, 78 catches in one game.
Yeah,
it was insane.
Kidding.
Fantastically insane.
Yeah, the whole rumor of Cutler not throwing to Landry, that was incorrect.
Yeah, it was incorrect. And a lot of people got great value on that, too, with Landry. Final email tonight, Bobby in Clover, South Carolina. I'm without Tyler Eifert at flex this week, so do I still start Charlie Clay at home against the Broncos for the 1.5 PPR or roll with Cleveland's new wide receiver 1, Rashard Higgins, rolling up numbers on the road in Indy? Your pod is my fave. That is Bobby in Clover, South Carolina. Bobby, thanks so much for the email. Thanks for the kind words. So it comes down to Higgins or Clay, obviously in a tight end premium format here, Dave. Clay has a tough matchup against Denver this week. I'm not all that excited. I think I would go with the upside here and play Higgins, given all the targets he saw last week and given the fact that Indianapolis' secondary is not so good.
I might have to take Charles Clay. I mean, he's a consistent veteran, and he's one of the best receivers on the team. So
he's one of the few receivers on the team.
He's one of the few and the best receivers on the team. He actually he can get red zone looks, whereas Higgins is more of a slot player, so he's probably not likely to get that. So I guess I'd go with Clay.
You're going with Clay, and we're going to go out of here tonight. Normally we do a little vignette here at the end, but I can't because Dave is currently shooting some cough syrup. Get well soon, buddy. Enjoy week 3, everybody.
Progressive presents Mindflowness with Flow.
Before you lies a beautiful meadow. In that meadow, Progressive Direct has placed its auto insurance rates alongside those of competitors. You select the lowest rate and feel a great sense of calm. A great sense of...
Compare Progressive Direct rates with competitors' rates so you can rest easy. Visit Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Comparison rates not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.